The rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com. Neodiplomacy is the new currency. Neodiplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent. Neodiplomacy is the new currency. Neodiplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent.
Okay. Shalom. Salama. Fiyemi. Shalom. Greetings to all my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or a Gentile grafted into the house under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning. Sorry, family. I have been fatigued as of late, and my body's actually trying to tell me to slow down a little bit. And I know that sign when my body is saying that, because then I don't get slowed down or slowed down. I get thrown down. And that hurts just as bad. So I'm getting to that point. And it's not that I don't like doing this. Actually, this is a highlight of my day, believe it or not. But my work is literally not it's sun up to past sundown. Before sun up to past sundown. And there's meetings that I have to do, there's things that I have to engage in, there's emails, there's WhatsApps, there's phone calls, and it can be a little daunting. And I had to laugh because I said, well, I'm working more than I've ever worked in my life, and I'm getting paid the less that I've ever gotten paid in my life. And it's not a slight on anybody, but that's just the reality. Because there are so many times that I'm like, you know what? Is this actually even worth it? Now, in my former life, it would have easily been, no, it's not worth it. Let me get up on out of here and devote my time, efforts, and energy in other places. I got bills I gotta pay. But I had to I had to think about all the cost that I've had to pay. There's a reason I didn't want to go into ministry. There's a reason I didn't want to be a teacher. There's a reason honestly I didn't really want to serve. Because when you actually understood what it meant to serve and to serve the most high's people, it's not a very appealing venture. And I mean to truly serve his people, not to serve yourself. And I've seen we've all witnessed how, especially in these days and in these times, where we have a lot of traditional, and this is what it had been, the traditional situation in where our people have been just so blinded by things. And I know that that was based off of some the curses, and I get it. I would always ask the Most High, okay, Father, I'm serving you, but Father, when do I move on? I've seen and I've witnessed and I've experienced. I've experienced this with my own father. Now, I'm not claiming it, but I knew fully well what I was getting into. Seeing how my father had been and ended up in financial ruin. And we'll go back and we'll say, that's not our portion. It's not this, it's not that. I understand. I totally get it. But I'm telling you, I've seen my experience. And that's some of the trauma that I have with me. Where he had to go through bouts of homelessness. And then it came to a point to where what he had done, how he had done, it literally destroyed my brother's relationship. And for a time, it destroyed my relationship with my father. And don't get it twisted, it's destroyed my relationship with my oldest daughter and my youngest son. These are the costs that I have to count. I would always think about, well, the Most High, he's good, he's just. Maybe when this thing comes to be and everything works out, maybe there's a restoration, maybe there's this, maybe there's that. But I've actually had to come to the realization that I'm potentially facing half of my own family being destroyed. And the reality is, as they can see what's happening, if you notice, they're not talking about forgiveness. They're not talking about repenting. They're not talking about fasting. If you notice all of the quote unquote biblical fundamentals, it flew out the window. And they're now hard and heavily pressed on do what makes you feel good. Yesterday we were laughing up some of the issues that was going on. But the reality is, we're seeing a very dramatic shift that's occurring right now. Now, I'm going to propose that the reason we saw the government shutdown and what that government shutdown was trying to do and trying to I would say, effect. Oftentimes, because we're a nation of selfish people. By and large, we are. And being a nation that is self centered, we don't truly understand what is actually taking place outside of our little bubble. That's what's happened. But I'm going to come through and propose a few things of my estimation of what that government shutdown was supposed to do. Supposed to. And it didn't. So there was a YouTube video, Cyrus Jensen. Now, I give the disclaimer that he's heavily pro China. I think he even lives in China. It's not so much the aspect of being pro China. It's the aspect of what has actually been happening around the world when it comes to the US dollar. I like to watch a couple of different channels like Sean Fu. I even will look at a lot of the right leaning, very white nationalistic approaches with Jay Bravo. I like to get different perspectives. I'll see things on the left and I'll see things on the right. But as I've been looking at things on the right, they have to become more and more fantastical because the fantasy is a promotion of really what's not there. You have a war on what, drugs, a war in, or a potential war in Venezuela. And I say all this because everything that the US is trying to do is ratchet up tensions and ratchet up tensions because what is happening right in front of everybody's faces is that you're seeing what happens when a currency dies. So let me explain to you what has happened over the last, I would say, 180 days. You had the strikeout with the tariffs. The tariffs then collapsed the shipping. The shipping suffered a totally devastating and debilitated condition. You've now had shipping that has not been able to be at levels. And matter of fact, these are at levels that have never before been seen in terms of resources coming into the United States. Well, if you have people with money, well, those resources get spent up pretty quickly, don't they? So now what they had to do and argue was, well, we got to shut down this government. And now, as they're shutting down the government, now we got to kick people off of these benefit programs because benefits will then do what? Suck up resources. And it already declined. Resource position.
On top of that, you also had in June, with the skirmishes going on in the Middle East, to which, let me explain this. The U.S. and the Eastern Mediterranean nation, they lost. Don't get it twisted. They lost. They tucked tail and then they flew back. They didn't destroy what they claimed that they destroyed. Four Dow's nuclear plant, the little pickaxe mountain, the blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, we destroyed it. And I said, no, they did not. I couldn't go into details with you about it. But again, I told you, I used to work all of that problem set all over the Middle East. You would need to have the equivalent of literally 2 nuclear weapons, warheads, to strike one after another on the exact same precision target. The mountains are really, they're impenetrable. Now, you'll take out some infrastructure aspects, ventilation shafts and things of that nature. Okay. But when they just did the little, non or conventional Moab, and oh yeah, we got them. Yeah. I'm like, okay. It was to feed the red meat to the lions. Understand that all of a sudden, that all through the shutdown and everything else, they were trying to say, oh, it's going to be years and blah, blah, blah. And I said, it's only going to be weeks. And then less than 2 weeks later, yeah, we're really not that bad. And I said, yep, they're already up and running. What they're not going to tell you, what they're not going to tell the American people, they're already constructing a nuclear weapon. They probably already have had the armaments, and they probably said to the U.S., y'all went too far, and we told you what was getting ready to happen. And then the U.S. is probably doing some sort of diplomatic backtracking and, going to these nations and saying, but. And these nations are like, we're not trying to have anything to do with you. That's what happens in the background in these diplomatic engagements. It's just that you'll never know because you have an administration that will never tell you. Why would an administration tell you that they're dying? People will be in panic. People will then be at all the resources that would then create scarcity. And if you've noticed, over the last, 2 years, they've been saying, hey, prepare. And then you even have Congress and things of that nature. They know scarcity is coming. Why? Because they're not able to bring in any ships. Why? Because they created a self-inflicted wound because they know that they're not able to buy goods. So what do you think these tariffs are all about? Well, we'll basically pay the surplus and the premium, and we'll call it a tariff. Look at all the tariffs that we collected. Did we really even collect any tariffs? Or did we collect enough money to pay back interest payments on the national debt so we can continue to say that we're solvent even though we're trillions of dollars in the hole? I told you all this hyperinflation is coming and it's going to be really real. Supposedly, they're going to try to print at least $20 trillion to, to inject into the banks. I think within the next month. Well, I don't want to burst people's bubbles, but if you don't have the resources and you're printing in $20 trillion, it's going to end up bad. Reason being, yeah, you'll have a nice cash flow injection, and that cash flow injection is now going to be via the banks. They've already decimated what? Jobs. These aren't for job creations. This is now for the rich people to be able to get what they need to get. And if you don't get it within your 30 days, then that's on you. Because this next government shutdown is going to be anarchy here at the end of January, as they have already now put in place the troops in their positions where they'll be at throughout the nation. But why is that? Well, that's simple. The Chinese yuan is now settling debts, not in the dollar, but in the yuan, in their bond. What does that mean? Well, according to even our own national security policy, that is the direct assault on the dollar. That's an act of war. They don't want to tell you that basically what China had done was that they literally declared war on the dollar. And now, since they have a settlement through BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, that's been monitoring what China has been doing through its Chinese Interbank Payment Settlement Program. Well, now everybody has been looking at Russia, Russia, Russia. To me, it looks as though they'll try to strike Beijing. They'll never do that. Oh, you don't think so? You don't believe so? Now, what that will do, that gives Beijing the opportunity to say, see, look at them. Look at how they became animalistic when they lost. And if they treat me like this, they're going to treat you like this. Reason I say that, look, they have no choice. The question that I would then surmise is, when are they going to do it? Will they do it when they know that most people are going to be traveling or off shopping and doing their thing for Black Friday because the money came back for a period of time, a short period of time?
We had a government shutdown. I was going to these Epstein files because I'm telling you, saying that they're broke is literally worse than any type of multi-million megaton bomb of nuclear whatever. They don't care about that. They'd rather burn. Literally, they would. Well, at least I'll just be gone in a flash. Okay. And they truly mean it. Nah, the worst thing for them is, and for them experiencing hell on earth, is for them to be poorer and poorer and poorer and to see their wealth vanish in front of their eyes. That is their hell. The U.S. is broke. We need a rapture. Please forgive us and bring us into heaven for our vacation, and then we'll come back to you with our white Jesus, aka Cesar Borgia. It's not funny, but it is. And that's the reality. Shout out to Sister Gates Holder, as she has been providing a lot of the contemporary insights to what was taking place in Egypt during that time. See, the funny thing is that I had been to Egypt, Cairo, about half a dozen times. Half a dozen. I've spoken to their quote unquote scholars. There are books that showed where we migrated. Yakoba's brought that on out. Shout out to Brother Yakoba. But one of the things that I had stated, and I've stated on this channel a couple of times because this happened a couple of years ago, when the Egyptians had opened up the tomb and they broadcasted what the tomb looked like when it was open, and you want to know who was angry? When that tomb was open without the coordination of them folks? Oh, they were livid. They have to, they try to say, they have to make the tomb presentable. It's right there. It's there on Al Jazeera, BBC, their Egyptian news channels, you name it. Oh, they wanted to assassinate El Sisi after that one. This was in 2020, 2021, one of those time frames. And they said, look, we refuse. We refuse to continue to whitewash history. Now, the funny thing is that when I was there in 2019, excuse me, not 2019, I was there 2017 and 2018. I was there and I was traveling and I had asked and I said something to the tour guide. I said, according to Al Nassar, one of the first presidents of Egypt after the coup, I said that he made a statement that the Egyptians left black. So how could they come back white? Excuse me, not the Egyptians. The Israelites left black. So how could they come back white? In that bus, that little tour bus, and it had a lot of white folks on it, the tour guide was very flustered. Well, well, these things they are. We don't know a lot about things, but what we do try to provide and what we do try to give. Now they're going to give you and provide to you lies, and that's simple because it keeps the narrative going. And when the narrative's going, they get a paycheck, and when they get a paycheck, they can feed their families. And when they feed their families, well, you know what? Who cares? Whatever. Are you all now seeing that framework coming through? This diagram that's falling and being dismantled because of the lies. This lie was self-insulating to where the impact was on everything, even history. What do you think is going to be stated here when we up and leave? We never had black folks here. What are you talking about? I don't understand why we've been paying you back for these past 500 years. You were all never in America. You were never enslaved. You're never this. Because what do you think they're going to try to do? They're going to try and purge records. They're already doing that now. You're just seeing on a smaller scale what they're going to do on a grander scale. I believe that they're not going to have the opportunity to do so because I believe that that's going to be the impetus of their next occupiers. As I stated all along, this was really the multi-generational prison. The problem is that in our release, well, somebody has to be here in this prison, and somebody's going to have to be the guard or the gatekeeper to gate the to gate to guard the gates of Tartarus. All starts to make sense now. Because when that war happens, and the war will happen, you then have different jargon. You then have different slang. You then have different elements of even communication. Do you know that our elements of communication are different than it was 20, 25 years ago in a very dramatic way? I see this every day. And the reason that this is happening, and it will be a very dramatic shift, is simply because their rebuilding and recovery efforts, if you think about it, it's not going to include us when this all happens. See, the great thing is that we actually can see them rushing to war. Everybody else doesn't. Or actually, I'm going to say this: everybody else sees it, but they don't want to say it. And then they get all shocked. They'll be all shocked when it happens. I thought it would never happen. I thought, okay. Because then when it does happen, then what's going to end up happening? Same old, same old. What are you all doing about it? What are we doing about it? Don't worry about it. Oh, you're not trying to help us. You're racist. No, don't pull that card. Remember, you didn't want to help us. Where were you when we were asking for help? Where were you when we were getting decimated with unemployment? Where were you when we were telling you about your struggles? See, we would have healed you. You refused to be healed. Everybody in our community, I'd say all of our people will become a biblical scholar overnight. Yeah, I've been teaching this word since like forever, and let me go out here, James chapter 5, verse 3, look, see that what you wage it? That will happen. The reality is that the word always remains true. That the borrower will be slave to the lender. See, what we're not seeing is they've actually been enslaved. Now the enslavement is going to take a physical form instead of an economic one. You're just now seeing how the end of this fiat currency known as the US dollar is in the midst of decline. So then the the lender will then take over the stuff that the borrower had. So my thought is this: was it really, in my opinion, was it really a government shutdown, or was it really a governmental reset to where they had to bring those generals in and say, hey, we're out of money, we're broke, but we have a plan to consolidate everything, and then we're going to have a war, but then after the war, those who survive, um, you're going to be in some sort of a subjugated lease or subjugated policy. Now, don't worry, it'll be humane, but if you don't cooperate, then it'll be inhumane. I'm telling you, that's what I'm waiting to see. That's what I'm waiting to look at, because it's not the fact of if. We're past the if portion. It's the when portion. See, as a nation that has borrowed billions of dollars or billions of perceived dollars, because they say, here's all these dollars that we can print out of thin air. Let me get all your resources. That's great because I got billions of these perceived dollars, and it's like, well, wait a second, that's the raw deal. You're telling me that they can print dollars out of thin air? Yep. So does this thing really have any money, or is this thing really have any worth? No. It's only worth as much as how strong we are. Uh-oh, we have a problem. See, our strength has been not ours. Actually, our strength has been rising. Their strength has been on the decline. And their strength has been rapidly declining. Do you see how that goes? They know that they're shutting down the algorithms of these platforms because why? It's too much truth. While everybody's on out here in these other platforms and everyone's on out here saying, "Oh, we need to come together. We gotta ask for forgiveness. We gotta make a way." No, no, that's not gonna happen. Sorry. Explain these chapters. Explain the Bible. Explain the Word. I don't know about that. I only know about New Testament. Don't play dumb. Because at the end of the day, they're not really insulting our intelligence. They're actually insulting and making mockery of the Most High. So you're going to the New Testament, but you're not reading His Word. What does the Old Testament say? I don't know. I got spiritual blindness. I can't see what the Old Testament says. All I can see is certain verses like Malachi for tithing. I can't see anything else. That's what we see. That's what we experience, and that's what literally they're encountering. They're encountering this. We would have healed Babylon. They're encountering this. We would have done this. We would have done that. Now they've dug their grave, and their economic grave is going to turn out to be a physical one. That's why I say for our people, don't get caught up in the nonsense. If you want to antagonize and everything else, then guess what? Then you're going to get judged too. It's amazing how folks will not read Proverbs. This Friday, we will have the Q2A Medical live Q2A Medical. Thank you, Sister Betty, for the gift. Hallelujah. Thank you. That'll be on Q2A's channel. I believe it'll be at 8 a.m., 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please check our brothers and sisters on out over there. So with that being said, yeah, sorry I was running again late. Keep me up in prayer. And keep our people up in prayer. And keep QT and its partners up in prayer, please. With that said, family, most high willing, I'll see you tomorrow. And with that, shalom, salama, siyemi, shalom, peace and blessings. Yasharel.